All right. Uh, Hello, everyone. This is Marcus Amaker. I am Jordan Amaker's husband. I am Ray Amaker's dad. I am Willie and Betty Amaker's son. I've also been called the Poet Laureate of Charleston and the Gaillard Center's artist in residence. To help me get through this, I do have Yoda here. I'm a huge Star Wars fan, and I've got Yoda here to help me, so that's very important to me. Let's talk about this new book first. So this book is coming out in May, and wow, the response to it has been amazing. I've been overwhelmed by the response. So thank you all for your encouragement, your text messages, your virtual hugs. I'll get hugs from you when all this is over. But I thought that it would be important to continue to release work, continue to write, continue to just be an artist. I don't have a choice, right? So this book came to me throughout a lot of experiences. It was after the last book came out, and that book did very well for me, and I found myself traveling a lot and writing a lot. And then Ray came, and all these new poems came to me. So I'm going to give you a little insight into my process. So the first cover of the book that I designed was this. This was the first version of the book, and I sat with this for a while, and I was like, yeah, this is cool. But then I ended up seeing some really cool artwork on Instagram from Nick Davis. He goes by ND Art on Instagram. So I ended up messaging him, and he messaged me right back, and he was like, yeah, I would love to collaborate with you. So, of course, this is the cover of the book now, and I'm really excited to share this with you all. So the reason I picked this is because of the boombox in the back. I am such a music fan, and a lot of these poems have to do with music, and we'll get into more of that later. So this image reminded me of me a little bit when I was younger. And also, I think it's important to put super black characters on art. So this is like a dark, very, very dark skinned character, and I think that that's important. We don't see that too often, and I just wanted to put that out there. So follow ND Art on Instagram. But this is still this is like an early version of the book. I'm still editing some stuff, but your poems and your books will be coming to you in May. All right, so this book is broken up into 4 different chapters, and the first chapter is called The Womb's Headspace. So this chapter is all about Ray. It's all about me being a dad and what that is like to be in that experience. She turned 5 months today, so happy birthday to Ray. But I wrote a bunch of poems thinking about that. And the music that I was listening to when I was writing all these poems is the Brittany Howard album, Jamie. I don't know if anybody has listened to this album, but it's amazing. So much of my experience is music, and whenever I think about these poems and writing these poems, I think about this Brittany Howard album. So this first poem that I'm going to read to you is about a challenging experience that Jordan and I went through with Ray's first week being on this earth. She had some breathing issues, and we had to, I think the 3rd or 4th day that she was alive, we ended up following an ambulance with her in it to another hospital, and they had to check her lungs and all of this, and it was really, it was one of the most challenging things I've ever had to go through. She is fine now, and she is beautiful. Even if she had a lung problem, she would be perfect. I also went through some lung issues when I was younger, and in my mind it was like she was trying to already emulate her dad. But I wrote a poem about all of this, and it's called A Doctor Tells Us It's Not a Life or Death Situation. Before my daughter's lungs found a consistent rhythm, they were offbeat, coming in on the 1-1-3-2, unsteady and unsettled, too fast, not finishing the notes. The nurses are worried, concerned with her cadence. My mother was once scared for mine because she found "Live Through This" on my nightstand. It was a threat, a kind of music she didn't understand. A specialist comes and gives us the notes my daughter should be playing, sheet music of worry. I tell myself she is already a fan of Ornette Coleman or Amaker. Imagine that, a baby who'll skip lullabies for bebop and experimental electronic music. Instead, they hook her up like a drum machine, wires everywhere, measuring her beats. 1-1-3-2 eventually becomes 1-2-3-4. I don't remember what it was like when my lungs arrived underwater, already expert swimmers, more fish than flesh. I just know what it feels like to be a new parent, in and out of emotional control, drowning in panic before everything finds its steady pulse. First poem. I think we need some snap emojis. Can one of y'all invent a snap emoji? I think that would be great. All right, so this is also in the Womb's Headspace chapter. And all these poems are about being a dad. I've learned so much in that experience. All right, so one of the things that I hear all the time is you should sleep when the baby sleeps. Like, sleep when the baby sleeps. I am an artist and I am a restless mind from time to time, and it's hard for me to sleep when the baby sleeps. So this is about that. Sleep when the baby sleeps, they say, as if sleeping is a switch easily turned on, especially when all of your mind's power is being used for the electricity of fatherhood, especially when you know that a dad could be a god, but you are a feminist, especially when your daughter's breathing could brush the quiet off of a cloud, but you keep checking for storms through weather-worn insomnia. What if a baby is a poem? Ask me to sleep through that, where every breath is a mirror fog writing itself through unstable, forgetful darkness, and each mind twitch is a pen stroke. No matter what happens, the words will be written, a mouth will be fed, a woman will be born, a person will be an echo, and your eyelids will be heavy with daylight. That's that poem. I'm so used to being on stage. I'm so used to like booze or tomatoes being thrown at me or like, yay, or somebody crying. Okay, so here is another poem from that chapter. I think that a lot of new parents can appreciate this. When I hold Ray, there's so many other things that I'm doing with the other hand, which shows that I'm not super present all the time, but this is called Skin to Skin. Learn how to do things with one hand, make a cheese omelet, rescue the sacrificial pacifier from floor dust, answer the client's email, pour orange juice in a glass and add champagne, cover your child's ear and take note of everything that claims its own volume, bend down on one knee to feed the cat, type this poem, write the set list for the show, flex your dad muscle, dance and sway to Brittany Howard's new album, fix the record if a track skips. Do all of this as baby sleeps in your other arm, round face pressed against chest, deep rhythm breath. And that is called Skin to Skin. All right, another poem from that chapter is called High Definition, and I wrote this thinking about the fact that she is 5 months old and she is just learning how to just be herself. She's all about her hands right now. She loves her feet too. And when I put her in front of a mirror, she just like stares at the mirror. And it's interesting. I think about the way that she looks at herself in the mirror. She's perfect, right? And when we look at ourselves, we judge. I think that we think a lot about how we used to look, or how we are changing and how we could be looking, or what can be fixed, things like that. She's perfect. So I was just thinking about that. This is called high definition. Looking at you is like looking into a mirror that has yet to be cracked. You see yourself clearly. No words for the light or the off-white glow you will be judged for. No need to clean the smudge, check for vanity, or constantly wonder what's in the rear view. All right, so let's move on to another chapter in the book. This chapter is called Memory Coordinates. And all of this is in the new book. Ding, 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 you should get the book. All right, so this is so wild. Thankfully, again, I have Yoda here to help. Yoda is here to help me. I've got the power. So this chapter is about me reconnecting and speaking from Black experience. Some of the music I was listening to during this era is Rhapsody. So this album is amazing. It's called Layla's Wisdom. It's by Rhapsody, and you should all listen to this as well. I'll put a link to all this music if you want to listen to any of it. I think it's amazing. You should also buy it on vinyl because it's really cool. So I wrote a poem called Black is the New Black, and this poem originally was all about the banjo. So I work for No Depression. I designed that music journal, and there was a story about how the banjo was started by West Africans, and I was really, really in love with that idea of thinking that the banjo, something that we don't associate it with Black people, is that it actually started with us, right? But then I started thinking about Black music and how everything comes from our culture. So there's a lot of references here, and I wrote this for the classroom as well, thinking about Black History Month, thinking about all of this stuff. So there's a lot of references in this poem. This is called Black is the New Black. Black music is greater than or equal to the blues. It's Bessie Smith as empress of analog emotion, B.B. King's personified guitar string, Big Mama Thornton's hound dog voice divine, and bourbon foot stomp. Black music is hip hop, the pre-digital sound cloud that takes us high and rising, record break spin with juice and gin, native tongue lingo and trap. It's Rhapsody, 808, boom baps, all beats, hi-hats, and hand claps. Streams of Black thought and bass-heavy flow. Black music is the banjo, a lost history untold by radio, sold from West Africa to the minstrel show. Its frying pans and animal skin, pig ankle strut and jug stomp the echoes of Uncle John Scruggs' clawhammer roots as Rhiannon Giddens and Dom Flemons retell the truth and hold the flag. Black music is jazz. Alice Coltrane and her hands plucking sound, Max Roach and his feet to the ground, up and down, between dust, kick, and snare, Jeff Parker and the Chicago skyline, pushing the limit of improvisation, sample, and soul. Black music is rock and roll. It's Big Joni and riot vibration, fishbone feedback in full living color. The music of a people, the pulse of its heart, a house that was built by Sister Rosetta Tharpe. It's that poem. Can we talk a little bit about Big Mama Thornton? I hope you all are fans of Big Mama Thornton. Hound Dog, that was her song first before Elvis stole it. Y'all should be listening to Big Mama Thornton. All right, this poem is called Earth Tones, and I was thinking about Maya Angelou when I wrote this poem. So Maya was silent for 5 years when she was 8 years old because of a traumatic experience. She was raped, and when she told somebody about the rape, they killed him. So she thought that her voice killed somebody. I was thinking about how somebody who has such a powerful voice held it silent for that many years, and she ended up finding her power in her later years. This is called Earth Tones. When Maya Angelou was 8 years old, she realized she was superhuman. Her voice in earth tone and full power caused the death of a monster. Because of that, she held her weapon of inflection inside the body, unconsciously sharpening it for 5 years until unleashing nightly majestic poems through lion-hearted heat of sound and power. There's nothing more brave than being a poet. To break the lid off of silent, risk ego death, and know your breath could change the world. All right, we're gonna keep on going. This poem was a poem that I wrote for the mayoral inauguration, and I was asked to write this by Mayor John Tecklenburg. And luckily, being poet laureate, I am not censored in what I say. So a lot of people ask me that, and I always say, if I was being censored, I wouldn't be in this position. But this is called Hope is in the Listening, and this is a prayer for our city. City as sorcerer and storyteller, sharp-eyed, observant, holy grandmother. She survived 350 years because the longevity of the Low Country requires a special kind of magic. Today we are witnesses to that witchcraft, citizens of its charm. Today, she is the voice connecting her family, the tourist and tour guide, cradling history in their arms like a crying infant. The LGBTQ community, joyous and resilient in the shadow of hate crimes. Plantation workers sending one-way postcards to ghosts, Black poets, the great interpreters of Southern truth, the farmer, hand-delivering homegrown sunshine, the mayor, whose job is to see hope through floods and watered-down politics. Charleston's story should be defined by this diversity, the sounds of promise and protest. She may be old, but her best days are ahead. Whatever challenges await, we will face them together because she hears us. People of change, she hears us. All right, let's do a few more poems in this chapter. This poem is actually the next single. I always think about my books as albums. So one of the things that I do as an artist is I always compose my books like they are albums. I'm such a music fan, as you can tell. So I always release singles. I think it's important to think of books like that. And this poem is a different poem for me. It's called The America I Know Could Use a Good Cry. It's more prose than poetry, and I actually did a video for this poem, and it's up on my website. And I was thinking about what it would be like if I met America as a person, and what if America is an innocent person? What if America is saddened by its children, because America's children has really messed a lot of things up, you know? America was born with all this promise, and then its children messed a lot of things up for a lot of people. So this is called The America I Know Could Use a Good Cry. I met America at a neighborhood bar. He offered me a shot of rum, and I reminded him that Captain Morgan was a slave owner, so the bartender awkwardly slipped another liquid lie down my throat. I ordered another drink and was channeled by dark spirits, the courage of Black ghosts who haunt American dreams. I told him I loved him and I wanted him to sleep well, but I know I've been in your nightmares, I said. I want to be your friend, but only if it's a deep relationship. Only if you show me that you are not scared of your baggage. Bring your whole history to the table. America cracked open another beer as a tear ran down his face. He said, I was born in a house not my own, and my fathers demanded that their portraits hang on every wall. White paint covers each brown brick, and our backyard is a museum of unmarked graves. Despite this, a garden grows, I said, and every home can be torn down and rebuilt again. But I've been told I shouldn't completely let you in, he said. Some people in my family stand in the doorway blocking the entrance. He left before I could tell him that my people have a history of finding ways inside broken spaces and making them whole again. That's that poem. I was watching a Netflix documentary about pirates, and one of the first things that it said was that Captain Morgan was a slave owner. And this poem came from that, because we order, Captain Morgan at bars all the time. And why has that become something that we celebrate? It's very strange. So let's get into this poem. This is a poem about Miles Davis. And I am a Miles Davis fan, but I'm also aware that he had a light side and a dark side. And all of us have that, actually. We aren't really perfect, but we are perfect in our duality. We have light side and we have dark side. Miles Davis beat all of his wives. He was a wife beater. He was, by all accounts, a complicated and he was a jerk. But he was also a musical genius. So how do we reconcile that? This also came from a Netflix documentary. I've been watching a lot of Netflix. But I was thinking about what it must be like to be one of his wives and listen to all these people say that he was this brilliant person when they know that he beat them. The name of this poem is Francis and Betty and Cicely and the Others. As if the ability to blow into a horn is more important than the ego balloon it took to suck the air out of a woman's voice. As if Sketches of Spain is anything but a masterpiece. As if calling yourself the Prince of Darkness is something to be proud of. As if any moon could compete with the power button light on my CD player the first time I truly understood jazz illumination. As if the only hits some women will remember you by are the ones that were fist print to skin. As if any rock band could compete with the balls of bitches brew. As if we are all enablers of dark behavior by not replacing genius with narcissist. As if you weren't a fighter who boxed his way through life and landed every punch. As if you didn't make an impact on every genre in my record collection. As if you never really knew what love was, man. It's that poem. I am a fan of Miles Davis, but you find out all this stuff about him, and it's really interesting to find out all this stuff that happened. All right, so let's move on to the next chapter, which is called Flow Own Current. And this doesn't really have a theme to it. This is just me sort of going with the flow. What I just felt like writing about all this random stuff. And I always give myself a challenge to have some sort of theme around a set of poems, but I let go of that for this chapter. Some of the music I was listening to during this is Caitlin Ariella Smith. This is an electronic musician. She is absolutely amazing. It's good meditative music. Caitlin is amazing, and I was listening to this a lot. Again, I'm all about vinyl. I'm all about music. I am an old school person. Being on Instagram is a challenge for me, so I appreciate you all being here. This is another poem written for the classroom. And I've written poems like this before. It's about celebrating being a poet. But this is called A Brief Summary of What the Poet Can Do. So picture me being on stage, or picture me being in a classroom. The poet uses the electricity of a stage to wire into their higher self with a voice and a microphone cord vibrating through floorboards, sending lyrical lightning bolts that set eardrums afire. Listen, pause, and pay attention. If you do, a poet's words can ignite the mind, throw ash on already hot emotions, set memory to burn, bring to smolder what simmers beneath skin, make heat where the cold has settled in. If the listener's mind is singed, they'll finger snap, which carries as much impact as a hand clap. Poetic energy traveling through body, thumbs pressed against finger for love recognition and spoken word tradition. For a musician, that's a foot tap or a palm patting beats on a kneecap when a song unwraps from your brain to your ears, to your lungs, to your lap. But poets gather around speech like bonfire, each spark making contact. And contact is something that I miss from all of you. I miss giving you hugs. I miss seeing you in person. I miss having conversations. I miss you all, and I'm hoping that we will find some sort of way to get through this soon. I know that we will, but in the meantime, we have these screens, so thank you all again for being here. I'm gonna read 68 more poems. I'm just kidding, I'm not gonna read that many more poems. But speaking of this challenge that we are in right now, I've been writing about what it's like to be in quarantine, and this is about that. This was published by Post and Courier recently. I was honored to be in the middle of a lot of amazing poets that the Post and Courier printed. Marjorie Wentworth, she gathered all these poems along with Richard Garcia to put all of these together. This is called The People's Pandemic. I've been talking about the end of the world with everyone. Until now, we did everything we could to not think about death or the moments meant for stress muscle. But fear is sustenance, and we hold solitude tighter than meat on the bone. There's some sort of invisible unease taking over, and we are all looking for the vaccine to the virus, the common life cure. I remind people that this kind of sickness cannot compare to the malady of the mind, but I'm unsure if I believe it. For now, I'm thankful for the conversations I'm having, like this one with the restaurant owner who handed me a bag of pancakes, an egg sandwich, and 2 mimosas in a paper bag with gloves on. How are you handling this mess, the end of the world? It's pretty nuts, but I'm doing the best I can. Or this one with the person in the empty co-working space. How are you handling this mess, the end of the world? I'm trying not to look at the news because it makes me anxious. That's it. Little exchanges, just enough to affirm the human. We will make each other proud one day to say we survived this, but I'm unsure if I believe it. That's called The People's Pandemic. All right, this one I posted on my profile a few weeks ago. It's called 20 Till Infinity. So much of this poem is about how it looks. I really geek out on spacing poems out. I think so much of what poets do is not just write. We really think about the way that a poem looks. We think about the way that the poem sounds. About line breaks, all of that stuff. I spent a lot of time spacing out words on this poem, but I really am happy with the way that this came out. It's called 20 Till Infinity. Look at us, footsteps making echo sound on sidewalks, black men leaning in for a head nod instead of a handshake, loneliness as survival, curbside cocktails, men in masks walking pit bulls, parents loving and loathing school shutdowns, cigarette smoke dancing around silent porch gatherings, physical and emotional distance, paranoia as in, can the trees spread disease, ghost streets, some of us taking slow breath in the middle of fast ration, dark mode option of the internet, moms with strollers, coffee, and cellular phones, bicyclists letting us in on the midday sun secret, Still finding time to put on lipstick, mind and body going in circles off balance, prayers up through pollution, Janet Jackson in headphones sampling Joni Mitchell's Big Truth chorus. This is how we chill from 2020 till. What's that poem? Snap emojis? Okay. So that poem obviously references music. So many of these poems reference music. The title of that poem is a reference to 93 Till Infinity by Souls of Mischief. It also references Janet Jackson, of course, Got Till It's Gone off of the Velvet Rope album. And Joni Mitchell, my favorite writer of all time, Big Yellow Taxi. That's the poem. All right, let's keep on going. I'm starting to have some fun here. All right, so this poem is about Slater Kinney. And I have just a few more poems for you, and I appreciate you all being here. I love Slater Kinney. There has to be some Slater Kinney fans in this experience right now. But I listen to them a lot. And yeah, this album, No Cities to Love, is ridiculous. It's really good. This was their comeback album a few years ago. But this is a little poem about them. A vocal explosion of too hot energy, fluid heat in headphones, smoke thrashing out of stereo speakers with each flash of sound, while 70s drugged up stale pale male rock gods continue to rattle bones with thinly veiled watered down blues. Carrie Brownstein infuses guitar strings with gasoline. Janet Weiss lights torches on the tops of drums, and Corin Tucker is the inferno and the fury. Anyway, again, this new book is called The Birth of All Things. It will be coming out in May, and I'll be shipping them all to you, provided that there aren't any delays with shipping. I know that's happening right now. You can also get it at the Gibbs Museum in their shop. You can pre-order it from them in their shop if you go to their store online. I'm gonna get this in all local stores as well. I ask that you do not purchase this from Amazon.com. You purchase it from local stores. You purchase it from me. You purchase it from the Gibbs Museum. Let's support local. All right, so I'm gonna scare you a little bit. Feel free to leave, but I'm gonna scare you a little bit. I love this. I love all of this. So I'm a huge Bjork fan, and when Bjork does things like this, it gives me more power to push myself farther. Can you imagine if I did a book cover like this? Like, it's just me with all of this. Like, y'all would not buy the book. You wouldn't buy the book, you know? But the fact that she is able to do this gives me power to do more things. So you're gonna start see me experiment more with styles, especially through music, through verse as well. But I wrote this poem about this album cover, and seeing as how I am a music fan, when people come over, sometimes I just have this album cover out just to see what people say. This is called Bjork Crawls Into My Ears. Oh, hey, my parents are on Instagram, y'all. Let's give snaps for my parents. That's awesome. All right, cool. So this is called Bjork Crawls Into My Ears. Sometimes I put Utopia on the coffee table just to see the reaction. There's Bjork on brand. Peach round angles and alien stare, blue hair and perched lips, eyes cut from cobalt, vagina forehead, a flute on purple goo. Behold this fearlessness. Is she flesh or computer? Since the late 70s, she's been a god star, essence of innovation, electronic wizard, producer, and voice. Yes, that voice. All color and other planetary, there's nothing like it. Back to Utopia. Don't stop at the album cover, press play and ignite all senses. Is that a bird or a button-pushed sequence? Are you hearing this? A harp in space-time with ultra-fine melody, phantom undertone bass, Bjork, you are an other dimension of song. I see you for who you are. It's that poem. And that references the first song on that. The last line is, see me for who I am. This was one of the first poems that I wrote when I was thinking about putting out a new book. And it was all about the fact that I don't like small talk. I'm not a fan of small talk. And I think that that's one of the benefits of what's happening right now. I think when we all get out of quarantine and see each other, we're gonna be having some real good conversations. But I think it's interesting how small talk is usually talking about the weather. And I thought that that was a really interesting metaphor that I could run with, all right? This is called Let's Talk About the Weather. Light follows us wherever we go, no matter how shadowed the mind. But darkness has a sneaky way of taking us over at night, and sometimes its sleepy residue remains in the day. In spite of the sun's warm personality and efficient, persistent glow. We sleep through hot nightmares when the only cool air is the pushback of bed sheets. When we awaken to a cold daydream, we'll shine through the suffering, sacrifice ourselves for small talk, and push our bodies to the limit, hoping to be blessed by the goddess of the sky. When we talk about the weather, let's not be afraid to speak the truth about our flooded emotions. When there are oceans of ready-made disasters throwing shade at the summer, let's be there for each other. Give shelter. It's that one. All right, I've got one more poem for you all. You know what? Let's do two more poems. The first one that I will do is about Star Wars. But I'm a huge Star Wars fan. Again, I've got Yoda here as my comfort. My parents, who are in the room, know this from an early age. There's a thing that I have in my baby book of me being knighted a Jedi when I was, I think, like 7 years old or something. So this poem is about Star Wars, and there is a haiku for every movie. So I've got 9 haikus here, but it's also a narrative on its own. I worked hard to not just write about Star Wars because I wanted this to be a universal poem. So you could read this poem and not know anything about Star Wars and still get into it, I hope. Okay, so this is called When I'm at Home, I Watch Star Wars. When I watch Star Wars, I write haikus about war, violence, and memory. So every episode has a haiku to it. And this reminds me of Academic Magnet. I spoke at Academic Magnet 2 months ago. And one of the first questions that I was asked was, do you like the prequels? And I love the prequels. I love the prequels. So I got to speak to the whole Academic Magnet school. That was a real treat. Okay. Marcus just talks about Star Wars the whole time. All right, episode 1. Battle droid theory. Turn war into fetish. Make army of robots. Episode 2. Soldiers are now slaves in galaxies of mass graves programmed for violence. Episode 3. Fear is mutation, soul transformation, and sin when man starts to kill. Episode 4, the family back home, echoes and faint memories of life before war. Episode 5, too dark now, mind filled with trauma and torture, mask for the suffering. Episode 6, confront the demon, put end to internal war, make peace before death. Episode 7, A ghost's memory haunts the new generation and passes down pain. Episode 8. Young, resistant minds have the spark to start over, reclaim history. Episode 9. If demon returns, reprogram memory and write your own story. Star Wars poem. I'm really proud of that poem. Episode 9, like if demon returns, because the emperor returned. That was interesting. Okay, cool. I love you all, and please take care of each other. Take care of yourself mentally. Take care of yourself physically, but mentally it's important too. And it's okay if you are feeling anxious. That's completely all right. This is a safe space. All right, this video is going to be saved. It's going to be archived. I'm probably going to post it on my profile sometime soon. But I appreciate you all. Thank you again, Gibbs Museum. Visit charlestonpoet.com to listen to that new album that I just finished today. It's electronic music. I will be doing some more live stuff. All right? See you all later. Goodbye.